Look at that, already we're discovering, it's kind of surprising. I always thought Cardinals were built pretty well. That's generally why I don't staple these things down, because the staples don't hold and then they stick out the back and start damaging the membrane. So we will have to secure this too. So we added some more work while we were at it. Good job. And while obviously the roof lasted almost 20 years without damage, it does create a high point that keeps water trapped on the roof, and water will always find a way through if you give it an opportunity. So yeah, that was a design failure from Cardinal when they built this. Don't use staples. All right, before I paint myself into a corner here, I should have gone ahead and secured this metal radius. I got ahead of myself. We're gonna be using these truss screws, whatever you want to call them. Lath screws, sorry about that. They have a washer head on them. These are only an inch long. We can go a little bit longer if we wanted to. But all we're gonna do is go straight through the metal and into the deck there. You can see it pushed up those staples. I'm gonna have to go through and pull all of those out. To say this is gonna be a tedious task is an understatement. Well, I can tell you this is gonna add a considerable amount of time to this roof job for sure. Because just doing this section right there was about 10 minutes. That's just 3 feet. And there's a lot more to go. Okay, well, that was an awful lot of extra work I didn't plan on doing, but should make a better roof now. That's probably what the factory should have done from the get-go. So we'll have to keep ripping this off, and we'll do the same thing over here when we get to it. All right, so with that secured for now, we're going to work on plugging out all those holes we're not going to be using when we put a new roof on. Like I said, the deck is still going to be, well, this deck is still going to be pretty sticky when you step on it. So having an unsticky area to work off of can help out a lot. Now, we've done this together before. All we're going to do is cut a piece of wood to fit into here. It's going to be easiest just to make the circle fit, but you need something to screw it to, so I have a piece of plywood right here. I'm just going to go ahead and cut to fit, put it underneath, screw it down. Don't have to worry about damaging the roof. Just use some simple drywall screws. This is not load bearing at all. We're just going to put that right there. Line up where these are about to go. Using that screw as a handle, I should be able to feed it through. Just go ahead and tighten that up. And now we have a nailing surface for the plug. If we don't fill this in, the membrane will just settle in here, and this will be a low spot. It'll be pretty evident. It'll hold water. It'll look bad. So we're trying to make this look good. Do the same thing one more time right there. Simple, all right? Easy. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and use a hole saw right here. It's not the exact fit. It'll be a little bit small, but that's fine because this is gonna be a patch either way. You could have spent the time to make it square and cut everything out perfectly, but I'm just gonna be building up 1/8 inch paneling at a time to match this up. There's a lot of times the thicknesses of the deck that the factory uses is not what you're gonna find at the big box store. So we're just gonna get close. All right, so look at that. We got 1, 2, 3. Perfect height right there. Good plug right there. This will all get covered with fabric tape anyways. It'll almost be completely invisible when it's done. Again, it really doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be functional, and I think that's all we're looking for. I'm going to use some drywall mesh tape. This is mostly self-adhesive, and it'll allow the roof adhesive to actually go in between it all, and that will fill up the voids that we left. Basically, it's going to be a poor man's fiberglass repair using the water-based adhesive as a resin filler in between. But that's good enough because we just want to make sure that the water doesn't set in a pocket down here. Now, it's probably not necessary because the ladder did have 8 holes right there. Decided I'd just go ahead and put this over the top of it, go all the way across the top. That way it'll look intentional underneath the membrane. The next step is going to be to start protective strip under here to protect the underside of the membrane from this edge here, and the screw heads themselves. They used a fiber butyl tape. We're going to use the Repair All Wonder tape of duct tape. Now, while this might seem like a joke, the duct tape does have a TPO layer on there that will protect the bottom of the membrane from being torn, and it does have fiber mesh in it to protect it, and a lot of manufacturers do this too. So what I'm going to do is start a roll there, start another roll over there, and then we're going to start moving actually forward, and then we'll be taping each seam like the factory did with some drywall tape, and then going over the top of it with the duct tape to hold this edge down as we put the membrane down. We'll keep on doing this side and ripping off the rest of this. So basically, that's how it's going to be the rest of the way there. Made pretty good progress in a little bit amount of time. I am spraying a little bit of contact adhesive just to give the fiber tape a little bit more bite as we reposition the membrane up there. It does like to take it off. And then I am making sure all the screw heads that are holding the deck down aren't sitting proud anymore. And then this duct tape right here is going to hold the mesh tape down too. But I think this is going to go pretty easily. Looks really good. Check back here probably in like less than an hour and be ready to put the membrane on. And I think with that, the deck is finally ready. Took a little bit more effort to do than I thought I was going to take. There was a little bit of damage right in there from the skylight, but I think it was actually from the shower, not from the roof. And otherwise, all the seams are taped on both the sides and in the middle. All the screws are no longer sitting proud, and all the unused holes are now clogged up. My big ordeal at this point is on a roof of this size, I probably will need a little bit of help and another hand. So I need to put a list together of all the parts that I will need. Obviously I need a skylight, 2 vents, a whole heck of a lot of screws, a lot more vents too. Luckily, no sign of rain coming in, and with this cover over here, I don't have to worry too much. Last thing I want to do is put a membrane on here without having it glued down. It doesn't take much for a gust of wind to come along, blow the whole thing off, and then it gets quite difficult to put a roof on with a dirty membrane. Well, it's a beautiful, good morning here at the shop in Apache Junction. I'm trying to get an early start today because I have some help coming with a friend, and we're going to try to put this roof membrane down. And we're going to be gluing it down with Dicor 901 BA or Bravo Alpha, which is a water-based adhesive. And I know a lot of people will say, aren't you supposed to overlay the deck? Why'd you go through all this with the old decking on there? The first thing I would say is that I don't like overlaying a deck just for cosmetic purposes, just to try to make the roof a little bit smoother. It's a roof, it's not supposed to be smooth and pristine, it's just supposed to be functional. Secondly, I have seen overlayments come loose and now the membrane is stuck to the paneling overlayment, but the paneling overlayment is loose from the deck down here, and because that decking or the paneling is very thin that you put down, it's very difficult to put a screw or staples in there and not guarantee that it won't pop up. And to do all that, spend the time, the money, the added weight for mostly a cosmetic issue, I don't think it's worth the hassle. I think it's risk an awful lot and you gain almost nothing. Now, secondly, some people will say, well, you need the new decking on there so that the water-based adhesive will be able to absorb into it and dry out and cure completely. To that I say, I have absolutely no doubt that the glue on the outside of this can will stick to the glue on the inside of the can, because I've ran into that many times, and it will all work out. Basically what I'm saying is the glue will stick to itself and it will still dry out. That I'm not worried about at all. I find this method to be a lot easier. So I have the glue up here ready to go. We're going to be rolling it on there just like it's latex paint, using a roller, some roller extensions, and then over here I have some brand new clean push brooms we'll use to squeegee all the air out, like I'm sure you've seen me do many times. Now the key to my method and Dicor's instruction is that we want the membrane to go down into wet adhesive. We don't want to let the adhesive cure or dry before we put the membrane down. That way the wet adhesive adheres to the bottom of the membrane and the deck and glues it down really securely. So what you will see us do is we'll put down a pretty thick coat of the adhesive. I'm not going to try to go light or thin with it, just a nice even layer. That way we can make sure we have more than enough adhesive on there. We get good adherence, and then we can squeegee out the bubbles. It makes everything a lot easier to put down. And then the method I'm going to use is we'll get the roll of membrane up on top of the roof here. We'll drape it out completely, even it out on both sides, and then we're going to fold back about half the membrane to probably the front of the RV right here. Glue the back, lay it out, and with a wet adhesive on there, it'll go down very easily. And then we'll pull back the front and glue it down at the front, and then we'll basically have it installed. We don't have to worry about by doing that method, we don't have to worry about, as we're rolling it, that the whole roll gets crooked and then we end up with a few inches on one side and a whole extra 10 feet extra hanging on the other side, and then you have to pull it all off again and restart again. So having it all laid out into place, make sure you stay centered the whole time. Makes for a better installation and a faster installation. If you just start at one end with the roll and start rolling it out, you can only do like a couple feet at a time with adhesive, rolling it, a couple feet at a time, rolling it, and something like that. After 40 feet, that could take like 3 hours of doing a foot at a time. It takes a long time doing it that way. And for those that are wondering, we are going with a Dyflex 2. This one is ivory. This is from Dicor. Now this is a TPO roof. I do prefer TPO over EPDM. It doesn't chalk as bad. It's not quite as stretchy, but it's a heck of a lot easier to install. Now it installs the exact same way as a rubber roof would install, and uses the exact same glue and sealants. The only thing that's not the same is that the Dyflex 2 is a TPO type of a roof, so it's a thermoplastic, so it doesn't really stretch like a rubber roof will. And if you do try to pull on it and stretch it too much, you will deform it and it won't stretch back. So that's the only downside. And even though it is a heck of a lot lighter than a rubber roof, I'll still be using a forklift to get it up there on top of the roof. Yeah, so much easier. What?
You see, like this guy. This.
That's what we're working out.
That's fine. Well, it'll come out.
Yeah.
You just get the broom.
Yeah. Basically, we're wallpapering with a big plastic sheet instead of paper. All right? Easy, right?
I
Like do the 5 or 6.
You like it? I love it.
All right, so with the membrane glued on, we can't walk on top of it. The next step is to secure the sides so they don't blow away in the wind. But I do want to point out we do have good adhesion. You can see that it's on the back side of the membrane and on the deck. That's what we're looking for. But while we're under here, we can see we can just use the existing holes for that molding and put it back to where it was before. There's no real construction to this. This is just the whole thing stayed center, and I think it goes a lot faster too. If you're just doing rolling it out, putting glue, and if it keeps it, makes it a lot faster, and keeps it even. Is that? Yeah, it should be good. The first thing I was